All right, a lot to get to on the show today. We'll run through the CFP semifinals, previewing the national championship, which we're going to have a monster game for. NFL playoffs. We had comebacks. We had tear jerkers. We had everything in between. Let's start the show.
The 10-Day Tony Show.
All right, welcome into the 10-Day Tony Show. I appreciate you guys for watching on the channel, for listening, wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching. Thank you so much. You can follow me at 10-Day Tony. Let's get straight into the show. A lot of college football today, a lot of NFL today. We had the NFL playoffs. We had the wild card round, which was insane. We had some great games. But Thursday and Friday of last week, we had the Canes get in. We had the Indiana Hoosiers get into the CFP final. So I want to start on the Canes game on Thursday, where we saw probably one of the best games we've seen in a long time when it comes to not only the CFP, but the Miami Hurricanes in general, right? I was really worried about Carson Beck. I thought that his ability to not land deep throws was a huge encumbrance to them playing decent football, right? Like, there's only so many times that you can establish the run on the ground, and Mark Fletcher has been incredible the entire playoffs. But at a certain point, teams are going to key in and stack the box and force you to throw. And Carson Beck had a bad time. I'm not going to say he wasn't terrible. Like, he definitely, in that last drive especially, had some really good moments where he was throwing into some really tight windows. But it felt like anytime that he was pushing the ball down the field, whether it be 10, 20, 30 air yards, it just seemed to come out of his hand weird. It seemed to not get there. It seemed like he threw it early, he threw it late. He could never really hone in and lock in with guys down the field, outside of them not calling a lot of pass interference calls that I thought were egregious. It just felt like Carson Beck, that is the final form that if the Canes are going to be able to beat Indiana on Monday coming up, that he's going to have to land a couple of deep balls and be able to stretch the field and keep Indiana honest to not stack the box against Mark Fletcher, against Marty Brown, against Pringle, against whoever it is that's running the ball. He needs that side of his game to be super sharp. And I don't want to be down on the kid. I think Carson Beck he's a limited quarterback and has been very good at extending the outer limits of his ability, right? He has been exactly what Miami's needed, which has been a calming presence, which has been somebody who's been willing to sacrifice and run when needed, right? How many big third downs, how many big second downs and long that has he been able to cut the sticks and been able to get to a 3rd and 2 or a 4th and 2 and 4th and 1 because he's had the ability to run. Not that he's fast by any stretch of the imagination, but that he's been a willing runner when the pocket has collapsed and he's been able to get out and get that yardage needed has been huge for them. Obviously, as you know, on the last play, I was even more encouraged by Carson Beck being able to scramble when the pocket collapsed outside to the left, where basically nobody was. Everybody's running routes out on the right side to score that go-ahead touchdown. Because earlier in that fourth quarter, he had a moment where the pocket collapsed. He started to step up. He felt heat from the right side, and he wasn't able to look over where he had, I want to say it was Marion. I don't remember who it was. I think it was Marion on a drag route where they basically had like a flood concept to the left. Marion dragged out to the right and had nobody open. Carson Beck could have thrown a balloon up there, and Marion could have sat behind it like a punt and ran for 45 yards or 50 yards or maybe even scored. But I'm really encouraged by this Miami team defensively. I know they took a lot of bad injuries, and a lot of things have happened in their secondary, on their defensive line. Akeem Mesidor's been hurt, but I'm very, very, very surprised on how Heather's been able to completely change his defense, the identity, the spirit of the defense, the way that they've been able to tackle in the open field, their pressure on the line. I'm going to say it here. I think every time we look at Reuben Bain, who had, I want to say 6 pressures, even though he's very quiet against Ole Miss from counting statistics, his ability to create pressure on Chambliss, who is unsackable, right? He's a guy that gets the ball out so fast. He's such a creative quarterback when it comes to plays breaking down and being able to get out of the pocket. The ability for Reuben Bain, who is getting double teamed. Not only double teamed, getting held on a ton of plays. A ton of plays that were ringing him around the neck. They were holding on the shoulder pads. They were bringing him down here, bringing him down there. His ability to create the pressures that he did, Reuben Bain is going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL. I know every time we see Mel Kiper has him as the 19th best prospect, slated to go 19th in the draft. There's other guys that are ahead of him at the DM position to get drafted. I'm telling you now, Reuben Bain is going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft when it's all said and done. Come combine, pro days, all that stuff. He's going to fly up draft boards, especially if he has a monster game against Fernando Mendoza, the Heisman Trophy winner. I'm very excited to see Reuben Bain at the next level because he's been kind of a hidden gem in Miami for the last couple of seasons. He's been very a lot of Miami hype has been surrounding him, but national hype, he's starting to get that recognition, which has been cool. Akeem Mesidor, his running mate on the other side, got hurt. Elbow hit against a helmet, and somebody rolled over it and ended up going back into the game. But Miami's D-line, unquestionably probably the best in the league right now as far as the CFP is concerned. And Moton got hurt. You saw him having to come back with that ankle injury. So Miami's got its defensive game plan cut out for them, because on the other side of the bracket, Indiana obviously smacks Oregon 56-22. And 56-22, as we see that as a blowout, it wasn't even that close, right? Mendoza ends up throwing for 5 touchdowns. Pick 6 to start the game. Dante Moore throws an out route late. Pons takes it for return for a touchdown, and that was it. It was over. Like there was no hope at that point. I was watching the game over. We're living at my in-laws' house right now because we bought a house. We're renovating. Whatever. Long story short, I'm sitting next to my father, and I'm like, "Hey, this game is over. This game is over. There's no way that Oregon is going to be able to be resilient enough and to be mentally strong enough in what felt like a home game for Indiana to come back and beat this Indiana team that is so laser focused." I love Mario Cristobal. I think what he's been able to do with Miami has been incredible. The turn from under 500 to scraping 500 to a better team last year with Cam Ward to now what they're looking at now at sitting on the doorstep of a national championship, of a 6th national championship. That should not. That I'm going to put that in one silo here. But what Curt Cignetti's been able to do at Indiana has been unbelievable. And I know that there's hearsay out there, that there's conspiracy theories, and that there's been somebody has been able to hack into some sort of cloud, and Curt Cignetti is this evil mastermind who is basically just Bill Belichick at the college football level, seeing everybody's plays, and he knows exactly what's going on. I think he's just a damn good coach. He's no nonsense. He's no bullshit. He's don't put the Gatorade on me kind of guy. He's just so locked in, and I'm made happy by such a stark difference between who Curt Cignetti is and his demeanor as a coach versus what he's tied to on the field, which is Fernando Mendoza, and who Fernando Mendoza is and how he is as a player and a quarterback. It's just such a funny dichotomy when you look at the grumpy coach and the effervescent, straight-edged, talking about the Stoics and we're the flippin' champs and very religious, which I like about Fernando Mendoza. It's just such a strange oil and water mixture that you think wouldn't work, but they're undefeated. They're the number 1 team in the country. They have the Heisman Trophy winner. If you've been listening to the channel, he's probably going to be the number 1 pick, especially after a 5 touchdown performance against Oregon. And then obviously we don't know what's going to happen in the national championship game, but if he goes out and has another incredible performance, you can pen him in, you can write him in blood as the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. If Miami can stop a great coach who said, all I do is win, Google me, and then you have a guy who grew up in Miami, who went to Cal, very lightly recruited, gave Miami a hell of a game where Miami had to come back in the middle of the night where Michael Irvin was all in all fours, okay, to now going to Indiana with a ragtag bunch of guys. They don't have any 5 stars. They just have a lot of guys that are older, upperclassmen that bought into what Curt Cignetti's doing. You have the Miami kid, the hometown kid coming to play against the school that he wanted to go to all along, against a coach that will kill somebody to get it, for getting in his way of winning a national championship. This is going to be such a tremendous game. The storylines are unreal. The game is going to be amazing. You got this incredible offense against this incredible defense. I will say, Miami is going to have a very, very, very big advantage on both sides of the ball, offensive line and defensive line in the trenches. Miami has a stark advantage when it comes to size, when it comes to speed, when it comes to overall line play. I think Miami has a very, very, very good chance to make this game exactly what they were able to make the Ohio State game. And obviously, we know Ohio State and Indiana played a very low-scoring game, 13-10. We know that Indiana struggled to play against Penn State with some good athletes on their side of the ball. I don't think Indiana's seen these kind of athletes and these kind of monsters that the D-line and the offensive line are for the Miami Hurricanes. I really don't. Obviously, the game is on Monday of next week, the 19th. I'm gonna make my prediction then as we kind of preview before the game. I'm leaning Miami right now, but what Indiana has been, which has been kind of a Cinderella story, with all of the pieces, the coach who says, "Google me, all I do is win." You have the religious straight edge, fantastic quarterback who wins the Heisman, who's the face of the franchise, the guy who can be in everybody's living room, and you want him marrying your daughter. All of that versus the big bad Canes, and I cannot wait. Monday the 19th, college football finale in the Hard Rock Stadium. I was going to say in the Orange Bowl, but at Hard Rock Stadium is going to be unreal. I'm super excited. And the playoffs have been great, man. Top to bottom, the playoffs have been absolutely killer. So I'm super excited for that. I'll do my official prediction. We'll do a little bit more Canes talk on Thursday's show, and then Monday I'll give my official prediction. And I feel like you guys are going to say, "Oh, Tony, you're going to lean Canes." We know it. I don't know. I may have to rewatch the Indiana game. I may have to go back and watch some film. Obviously, we've been following the Canes all year, so we've been pretty locked in there. But very fun week leading up to this championship game. We're doing a lot of stuff on the Levitard show that you can go follow. Obviously, doing a lot of content here on the 10-Day Tony show, which you can follow. I'm very excited for Thursday's show too. Before we break into the NFL, I do want to have this little plug. Thursday, we're going to have Peter Cohen, who is the guy that came up with the very brilliant theory, and I think what describes maybe what's going on with one of the most storied franchises in the NFL, having an electric power plant next to their facility. We're going to have him on the show explaining his theory, explaining everything that's happening. So that's a little tidbit, a little nugget, a little morsel for you guys to tune in next week, or excuse me, on Thursday, next show, because we're going to have a very cool conversation about what's going on with the San Francisco 49ers, who just advanced and beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Migs, let's go over to the NFL. We had a great, for as bad as weeks 17 and 18 were, we had a great first round of the playoffs. We had upsets. We had teams come back from behind. We had teams that were slated to maybe be in the Super Bowl struggle, even lose, right? Let's start with the first game, and we'll rattle through all these games real quick to get you in and out of here. Rams-Panthers. I knew from the jump when the Panthers were able to force Matthew Stafford into uncharacteristically turnovers, when they were able to kind of do as much as they could to stop Puka Nacua, that the Rams were going to struggle with the Panthers, especially on the road, right? You need to be in the NFL. You need your running game to travel. You need your defense to travel. And for whatever reason, it felt like the Panthers, inexplicably, who were 8-9, who shouldn't have maybe even been in the playoffs, they were able to be some sort of kryptonite for the Los Angeles Rams. But when you got the old dog, the old gunslinger Matthew Stafford, he's going to find a way to win. He's going to find a way to do it. Colby Parkinson with an incredible catch on the sideline, a amazing back shoulder pass from Stafford, who's thrown that 10,000 times, and the best one saved it for that game. I think with the Panthers out of the way, the Rams could go to the Super Bowl. I feel like this was the one game that the Rams had on their playoff schedule. It was like, oof, I don't know. Like, this is the one game that's a little bit weird. Rams get through. I don't really know what to think about the Panthers, right? Like, Coker came out, had a great game. I'm not a huge Bryce Young fan. I think that he's okay. I think Canales is really opening up the ceiling for what he can be, which is the 17th best quarterback in the NFL, right? Like, I don't think that he's a guy that can get into the top 10, 12, top 10. He's just not that guy. He doesn't have the build. I don't think he has the arm strength. I don't think that he just has that ceiling. But it's a positive step in the right direction for the Panthers, who have some decent players here and there. It just doesn't feel like they're in the same class as any of these other NFC playoff teams. So the Rams, I feel very good about. I'm gonna figure out. I think. Do we know where the Rams are going next, guys? Where are the Rams going? Let's look that up. Let's see where the Rams going. I haven't seen the updated playoff bracket. Let's see here. Rams are going to. Oh, okay, they're going to the Bears. They're going to Soldier Field to play the Bears next week, which is going to be a great game. That was the other game on Saturday, which was Packers and Bears. And this game had a lot of everything. Packers are up 21-3 at halftime. And then the Bears scored 25 points in the fourth quarter to beat them 31-27. The Packers are a really interesting team because the Packers have an interesting setup, right? They've got a very good quarterback who produces at an all-pro level sometimes. They've got a coach who will get you to 13 wins, but not get you over the hump when it comes to the playoffs. You've got weapons that are okay for the week in and week out grind of the NFL season, but not good enough to be game-changing, game-breaking guys in the playoffs, right? Romeo Doubs, I like. He's also a number 3 receiver. He's their best receiver, and he's a number 3 receiver. They spent draft pick on Matthew Golden, who ended up having a really good game this week. He's been invisible for the entire season. They don't have that player that you look back in the Devontae Adams, where you look back, the Puka Nacua, even the DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, who they played. Like, they don't have that one guy that you can say, all right, this is the guy that can get open no matter what. This is the guy that can be, that can win outside, that can win inside, that can win against multiple different positions. Tucker Kraft was a big loss for them. It just feels like the Packers are plateaued completely at, we're going to win 12 to 13 games a year. We've got a good quarterback, and then we're going to lose to somebody inexplicably in the playoffs. And I think that's where they sit right now. They're looking to extend Matt LaFleur. Sure, you can't let a guy go who routinely wins double-digit games per year, but the fact that Ben Johnson was able to be at the helm for the Detroit Lions the last couple of seasons, create an incredible offense over there. They lose him. He goes over to Chicago in the division, and then not only wins the division, but now beats you after you were up 21-3, and you lose that game in Soldier Field, where the Bears have been awful forever. The Bears haven't had a quarterback in 50 years. The Bears just completely choke every time that there's a big moment, and they go out and create the moment on you. And the coach is a first-time head coach in the NFL, and it's against your rivals, and you let that happen. Matt LaFleur has a lot of questions to answer, because, I mean, you stack up these two rosters, and I'm outside of maybe wide receiver, I'm probably picking Packers on most of those units. I think the offensive line is kind of a scratch. I think defensive line will probably give to the Bears, but linebackers will give it to the Packers. Secondary's kind of both of a toss-up. I probably like the Bears a little bit more. The fact is, this is a third division game, and you continued to not live up to expectations when all of these things are going for you. So Matt LaFleur has a lot of questions to answer. Bears move on. They'll be playing the Rams in Soldier Field. The Bears 11-6 on the season, second seed in the NFC. If you would have told me that at the beginning of the season, I would have not have believed you, just because I didn't really believe in Caleb Williams. And I think that's the biggest headline of the entire game was Caleb Williams. They told us that he was great. We have seen very little evidence of that through his first couple of seasons in the NFL. He's had a lot of offensive line problems. He's had a lot of weapons problems. He's had a lot of time holding onto the ball. He's had a lot of sacks. Has a lot of plays that leave you scratching your head like, I see what you were doing there, but like that doesn't work in the NFL. That worked in college maybe, but right now with these grown men who can get sideline to sideline like nobody's business, that doesn't work. His throw on, what was it, third or fourth down, where he completed that incredible, was that fourth down? Fourth down, where he goes sliding to his left, throws off balance to Rome Odunze between two defenders, because the defenders weren't even looking, because they didn't even realize he threw the ball, and he brought them down completely calm, picking off the defense. Boom, 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 boom. The fake screenplay was great too, where they caught DJ Moore for a touchdown. I'm starting to believe. I'm starting to buy in on the hype of Caleb Williams. I was never a Caleb Williams guy. I thought Drake May was better. I thought Jaden Daniels was better. Now I'm starting to see, okay, wait a second. Caleb Williams attached to the coach is now becoming a bit of a franchise quarterback. I'm not going to say he's a franchise quarterback all the way, right? Even though winning a game, as starved as Bears fans are for playoff wins, that's a big step. And the way that you're paying quarterbacks right now, you're going to pay him as a franchise quarterback. Just think about how important Ben Johnson is, how underpaid Ben Johnson is, that he gave the ability for Jared Goff to sign a $200 million deal and now is basically making the career for Caleb Williams. Again, he's a special player. He's got a great arm. He's got great cerebral. He can move. Ben Johnson is the reason why this team is in the divisional round and may make a run to the NFC Championship game and maybe the Super Bowl. It's that guy right there. And I love Bears coach. Here's the headline. Bears coach Ben Johnson yells, "Fuck the Packers" in speech after dramatic playoff win. The players love him. As quirky and as, weird as coaches can be, they're bought in with this guy. They love this guy. I'm super, super, super excited about what he can do with this team. So that was the Saturday games. Let's run through. Oh, God, I just saw the Jags and the Bills. What a disgusting game. What a disgusting game that was. Why? Because, as you know, I'm a Jags supporter. I like the Jags. I like Liam Cohen. Trevor Lawrence, I thought, turned a corner this year because of Liam Cohen. And then he goes out and does the Trevor Lawrence thing, right? The live by the sword, die by the sword. Trevor Lawrence threw 2 interceptions. The last one to end the game when they needed to go down and get a field goal. What else is there to say about Josh Allen? What else is there to say? He's married to a Hollywood, actress. They're pregnant. He's signed a $1 trillion deal. He's the best quarterback in football. He's strong. He's big. He's great. His offensive line carries him 15 yards into the end zone. Like, it's just sickening. It's sickening. It's like, what are we doing? Let me read you the stats. Okay, their number one receiver was Khalil Shakir, who I like. I like Khalil Shakir. I think he's a very good player. He's not your number one. Okay, he went 12 catches for 82 yards. Brandon Cooks, who can still run. I just didn't know anybody wanted him on their team. 3 catches for 58 yards, and the most important one to set up the last little game-winning drive. Keon Coleman, 1 catch for 36 yards, and that's really it, right? They don't really have an offense outside of James Cook, who was stopped, only ran for 46 yards. Josh Allen somehow, some way, continues to just be a magic elixir for the Buffalo Bills. A great pass defense, a lackluster run defense, and the Jags just weren't able to pull it out when they needed to. And it sucks because I thought the Jags were one of the better teams in the AFC. I thought they could have made a run and made it to the Super Bowl. But when you look at the Bills, ended up the season 11-5. I don't know how. I really don't know how, because this team should not have been an 11-win team. Just goes to show you how good Josh Allen is. So I think the Bills are heading over to Denver. I think they were the lowest seed remaining, and I think we're going to see, so Bills will head to Denver. Denver obviously had the bye as the number one seed. Let's go back. We had the other NFC game in the 4:00 window. We had the 49ers versus the Eagles. And the Eagles, I said it on the Le Batard show today during my top 5. This is a look in the mirror game for the Eagles. You've been to the Super Bowl a couple of years in a row. You won the Super Bowl. You basically changed nothing. It's like you didn't learn from the mistakes that you could have learned from to make your team better. I don't know what to think about Jalen Hurts, because Jalen Hurts went from being an afterthought of a team that could run the ball and could play good defense to, okay, wait a second. The Eagles are winning because of Jalen Hurts, right? He's been playing incredible football. He's been, all the things that they needed him to be, making the right plays at the right time, not turning the ball over, being able to use his legs, being able to extend plays, look down the field and connect down the field. And then this year, they just completely went into this mummified offense where you've got two of the best tandem receivers in the NFL. You got a great tight end. You got a great running back who they ran into the dirt last year at almost 600 touches. But you went away from everything that worked. And I get it. It's very, very important when you lose an offensive coordinator, when you lose a philosophy, when you lose a scheme that fits all of your players, and then you fill that role with somebody who you think can fit the bill. It's just they're not that guy, right? And it's happened in Tampa where they lost Liam Cohen. They brought in Grizzly, the offensive coordinator. Not the same. Baker was not the same. Obviously, they had a ton of injuries, but their offense was not the same. You look at Ben Johnson leaving Detroit. Not the same. They bring in Morton. Not the same guy. You can have some of the concepts be the same. You can have some of the ethos be the same, but you cannot replicate what those two guys are. You look at Liam Cohen, took the Jags to the playoffs, 11-win team. You look at Ben Johnson, second seed in the NFC, 11-win team, maybe could make a run to go to the Super Bowl. You can't just manufacture offensive coordinators. It doesn't work that way. They bring in Patullo. He's not Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore doing a great job with the Saints, by the way. Took Tyler Shuck, probably the rookie of the year for the offensive side of the ball. You cannot replicate what some guys can do. And Patullo is not that guy. And Jalen Hurts has gone back into a shell like he was 3 or 4 or 5 seasons ago. That's all to say. That's on the Philadelphia Eagles side of the ball. On the 49ers side of the ball, what Kyle Shanahan is doing with a team that is absolutely decimated with injuries every single season. That's why we're going to talk to Peter Cohen next show on Thursday to talk about what's going on in Santa Clara. If it's a kooky conspiracy theory that they have a power plant, electrical plant that's feeding EMF waves over to the facility, if that's what's causing more soft tissue injuries and ligament injuries than any other team, I just don't know. I'm grasping at straws right now. I don't know what else to think. I don't know how this team can be historically the most injured team for like 3 seasons in a row. And you're talking about great players on the offensive side of the ball, on the defensive side of the ball, and yet they're just always in some sort of malaise. They're always in some sort of malady, right? Brock Purdy's out for 6 weeks. They bring in Mac Jones. They have this, they have that. They kind of cobble things together, and all of a sudden they go on a run. McCaffrey's been the most healthy guy there, and he hasn't finished the season in I don't know how long for 16, 17 games. Kittle tears his Achilles during this game. Doesn't matter. They have guys step up. They don't really have a number 1 wide receiver either. Like, they have a very equal offense when it comes to Demarcus Robinson was your leader. He had a big 61-yard chunk. Your third leading receiver was Kyle Juszczyk, 4 catches for 49 yards. You got Jawan Johnson. You got Tunges. Like, you don't really have anybody. You have Ricky Pearsall, who's in and out of the lineup. Obviously, didn't play. He's hurt. But what Kyle Shanahan has been able to do with this offense, on the back of Brock Purdy, on the back of guys that do not equal the talent of teams that they're playing, right? If you stack up the offensive side of the ball for the Eagles and then stack up the offensive side of the ball for the 49ers, there's a stark difference in skill positions. And you'd probably take Eagles for almost every single skill position player outside of the quarterback, which you can make an argument that Brock Purdy's better than Jalen Hurts. That's your argument to make. I will take either, right? I think that's a wash on either side. But I'm just surprised on how San Francisco, it just speaks to Kyle Shanahan and how he is as a coach, that he's able to create a scheme that is agnostic of who's in the scheme. Kittle's in, great. If not, Jake Tunges, okay, he's going to catch a touchdown. You can have Ricky Pearsall in. You can have whoever. It doesn't really matter. We're going to throw the ball to Demarcus Robinson. He's going to have 113 yards and a touchdown. It's like Kyle Shanahan may be the best coach who has had the most unlucky streak in a career ever. So 49ers move on. They'll be heading over to Seattle. Seattle and San Francisco. Talk about how good the NFC West has been, where you've got, of the 4 teams remaining, 3 of them are from the NFC West. And then obviously the Cardinals are not very good whatsoever. But the Rams, the Seahawks, the 49ers, all locked in to the second round of the playoffs. And that's going to be a battle. We may have the opportunity for a divisional NFC championship game, which would be electric. Last game of the night, Chargers and Patriots. Patriots continue to play teams that kind of don't have an identity and don't really have a shot. They've had, I want to say it was the worst opponent schedule when it came to win percentage in history. Don't quote me on that, but I want to say I saw in history there's been no team that has had a worse schedule of opponents as far as a winning percentage perspective than the 2025-26 New England Patriots. They beat the Chargers 16-3. It didn't even feel that close. Herbert's running for his life. They have no offensive line. Hampton basically didn't play. Vidal's just not a workhorse guy. McConkey, Gadsden, Keenan Allen. These are guys that that are not going to move the needle. And Justin Herbert, for as good as we project and as good as we profile him from a stature standpoint, from this guy can rip the ball. He makes good decisions. It goes to show you how important, obviously, an offensive line is. The moment Joe Alt was out, it was done. Rashawn Slater to start the year, he was gone. This team was going nowhere fast. And in a division that has the number one seed in the AFC in the Denver Broncos, I just don't know how Los Angeles isn't second or third in the division every single year. And it feels like a hollow 11-6 because when you get to play the big boys of the conference, even the big boys of the division, it just seems like for whatever reason the Chargers cannot stack up. And we may have to investigate what's going on in LA too, because that's another team that is perpetually just always hurt. Everybody's always hurt when it comes to the Los Angeles Chargers, and this was no different. So Patriots are going to be playing TBD. They play the winner tonight of the Texans versus the Steelers. And the Pats are in a good spot, man. Pats are in a good spot. They can continue to play teams that are okay until they do meet whoever wins the Broncos and Bills game, and that will be a big time monster AFC Championship game. But the NFL wildcard weekend was excellent. I'm looking forward to the game tonight, Houston versus Pittsburgh. I think Houston's defense is going to be a little bit too much for Aaron Rodgers, and if CJ Stroud can just somehow get things going like he has the last couple of games, that offense is dynamic with Nico Collins. I'm very, very excited about the Houston Texans making a little bit of a run too. So it's been a great season. The playoffs are going to continue in that trajectory. So divisional round is set outside of Steelers and the Texans, and I'm excited, man. So Thursday, take a little swig of water here. On Thursday, we're going to be talking to Peter Cohen, who came out with the theory and the story of the Santa Clara power plant, electrical plant that is next to the 49ers facility. Want to have a really interesting conversation with him about what's going on with these EMF waves, if it's kind of hearsay, if it's bullshit, if it's real, if it's something that the NFL and the San Francisco 49ers should be looking into, because, damn, how do you explain what the Niners have gone through in the last half decade? It's almost inexplicable, which is why I'm grasping at straws, trying to figure out what could it be. So we're going to talk to Peter Cohen on Thursday, and we'll do some extra look-ahead stuff for the NFL playoffs, and obviously preview the Canes and Indiana Hoosiers. That's going to be a dynamite game for the CFP playoff. So wherever you are, however you're listening to us, whether it be on YouTube, on Spotify, go check me out at 10 Day Tony on all those platforms, on social media, on Twitter, on IG, on everything. So we'll be back Thursday. Interesting convo with Peter Cohen and previewing the games. Peace.
The 10 Day Tony Show.